Massachusetts, a young college student got attacked by a group of people. He got kicked savagely while struggling to rise from his hands and knees. Fearing that he's about to be stomped to death, he takes out his pocket knife to scare the attackers away. However, the knife went into the attacker's chest, mortally wounding him. In the court, the jury was never allowed to know the fact that the college student was trying to defend himself, and the young man got convicted of manslaughter. Can it be told that he got a fair trial just because the result was followed up by the law? Shouldn't there be a stronger self-defense law so he could have got a fairer result than just getting convicted as manslaughter? Self-defense law is a law to allow citizens to use of reasonable force to protect oneself or members of the family from an attacker if the defender has a reason to believe that he is in danger. In other words, self-defense law can help victims such as the young college student from getting punished for defending himself. Countries should have strong defense laws to reduce the crime rate, follow the Second Amendment, and avoid punishing innocent people. Countries should have strong self-defense laws to have low crime rates. For example, Switzerland, Singapore, and Hong Kong is very famous of having low crime rates. Among those countries, Switzerland is a typical example of a country that has strong self-defense law yet have a low crime rate. The statistics in Switzerland has proven that strong self-defense laws for people helps the crime rate to be low. During the 2009, the Politic investigated 236 homicides, of which 55 were allegedly committed with gun. During the same year, 524 aggravated batteries were reported, 11 of which involved gun use, and 3,530 robberies were reported, of which 416 were committed with a gun. Switzerland has a population of 7.9 million. The Swiss Statistical Office prepared a chart that lists the number of deaths caused by guns during the years of 1995 through 2010. According to these figures, 70 to 90% of the reported deaths were suicides. The figures also show a gradual decrease of death by gun use from an overall number of 444 deaths in 1998 to 241 deaths in 2010. This proves that even in a large populated country, due to a strong self-defense law, they have low crime rates. Switzerland even had the Weapons Act, which contains a comprehensive regime for the licensing and the acquisition and carrying of permitted weapons, the banning of certain weapons including automatic firearms, and the production and trade in weapons including the reporting obligation of dealers and a registration system that covers all privately owned guns, including those acquired by inheritance but not including hunting rifles. The Federal Weapon Act is implemented by cantons, and the cantons also kept registers of privately owned guns. Switzerland's self-defense law even contains strong laws that can prevent from people taking advantage of this law so no one can get away from harming others in purpose. Secondly, by establishing strong self-defense law, the country is following the Second Amendment of human rights. The Second Amendment is a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. The phrase well-regulated militia has sparked debate over whether the Second Amendment extends to the right to maintain firearms exclusively to the organized groups or to individuals. The issue was brought to the Supreme Court's attention in 2008 in the conversational opinion in the case of District of Columbia versus Heller, which interpreted the amendment in favor of individual ownership rights. In fact, the time when James Madison devised the amendment, militias were well defined. They were organized, legally regulated groups controlled by the individual colonies and the later of the states. Since its ratification, Americans have been arguing over the amendment's meaning and interpretation. One side interprets the amendment to mean it provides for collective rights, while the opposing views is that providing individual rights. Those who take the collective side think the amendment gives each state the right to maintain and train formal military units that can be provided protection against the oppressive federal government. They argue the well-regulated military cause clearly means the right to bear arms should only be given to those organized groups. They believe this allows for only those in the official militia to carry guns legally, and say the federal government can abolish the militias. Those with the opposed viewpoint believe the amendment gives every citizen the right to own guns, free of federal regulations, to protect themselves in the face of danger. The individuals believe the amendment's militia clause was never meant to restrict each citizen's rights to bear arms. However, the fact that the Second Amendment means people should have the right to protect themselves never changes. Thus, a strong self-defense law would help the citizens to have their own rights. Lastly, innocent people should not be punished when they defend themselves. For instance, in Arizona, a retired school teacher hiking in the desert got attacked by a couple of vicious dogs, and he draws his pistol and fires warning shots. The dogs are smart enough to back off and stop attacking, but their owner was not. The dog owner, who was larger, younger, and stronger than the teacher, rushes to the teacher in obvious state of rage, screaming threats. At that moment, a powder burning distance, the teacher fires. It takes 3 10mm bullets to stop the attacker, who falls mortally wounded. The investigation shows that the dead man had a long history of violent mental illness, including multiple vicious attacks like one of those described in the hiker. But the hiker, who had never seen the man before, didn't know that. The jury that judged the teacher is not allowed to know it either, and they convict him to second-degree murder. We are being judged for our act, which in self-defense shooting is the use of deadly force of another human being. Essentially, the issue is whether we use sound, lawful judgment in performing the act. If we didn't know about the attacker's prior bad acts, they will not format to the decision of which we are being judged. Therefore, since we don't have the knowledge when we took action, the jury will not be allowed to have it either. All countries over the globe should establish strong self-defense laws in order to lower the crime rate, follow the Second Amendment of human rights, and save innocent people from getting punished. There are so many cases around the world that people are getting punished just by protecting themselves. Especially in South Korea is one of the examples that have bad, strong defense laws. These days, there were so many cases that people are getting attacked by someone else for no reason. The last week of May, a woman was attacked by a man just because he was a misogynist. The country is in shock and claimed the government for a better law. Like how Switzerland is, South Korea should change its self-defense law to that of Switzerland. By having a better law that can protect the citizens, the country will become safe and desirable for the citizens to live as well. I recommend everyone to send a letter to the government to claim for a change. Just a small action of the government can change how the citizens feel when they live.